Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Podcast game.
The podcast game.
Okay. Testing 1, 2.
Testing 1, 2. Hi, my name is Louise.
And hi, I'm Emma.
And you're listening to Murder or Myth.
The true crime podcast where not everything is true.
The aim of the game is to find out whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get started. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Emma.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I like that you always ask me how I am.
Yeah. We got to start out on a nice note.
Thank you.
So this is the murder at Lake Powell in Arizona.
Okay,
so the murder at Lake Powell. So Jack Tully grew up in Leachy, Arizona to a wealthy family. Jack was born in 1980 and was the eldest son of his two parents.
They've all been so old these past few weeks, haven't they?
Well, no. There is one recent one.
There's only one though.
But 1980 is relatively a lot closer than the 1800s.
Yeah, I
that's
think
for sure.
there's been a lot of old ones. I don't know why.
Okay, we'll have to take that into account for our next few batches.
It doesn't really matter, but I just it's an interesting
Okay.
observation.
Good observation.
I'm so observative. Is that the word?
Observative? Probably not. But
Doesn't
I don't
sound
know the
right.
proper word. I would say that.
Okay.
I like making up words though.
That's so fun.
Okay, so Jack was born in 1980 and has a younger sister, Jana, and a brother, Jason. His father, Alex, was a prominent lawyer at the time and would work in the neighbouring California for high-profile wealthy clients. And his mum, Deborah, was just a homemaker who kept the family estate. So they were a wealthy family, had a lot of land in Arizona. She would run the house and keep everyone, on schedule, time, groundskeepers,
Oh, they had all
caterers,
that?
all the stuff, all the shebang. So she would run events at the house and just keep on top of that. Jack was well liked growing up and was popular through high school. Many were aware of his social status, and he ended up going to Stanford College for law. So that's in California, neighboring states. We like a little bit of American states.
We do like the American states.
So in 2003, after completing his law degree and passing the bar, he moved back home to begin working with his father at his law firm.
Okay.
So the law firm was in California, so the father would be over and back. And Jack was going to work with him.
Interesting. A lot of detail about the neighbouring states.
Okay. Moved back home, so he was close to his girlfriend of 6 years, Morgan Sampson. She came from a lower class family, but they were well respected in the area. Her mum was a school teacher and her dad was a crab fisherman, Sheila and David. 2 years later, in 2005, they got married at the Tully family estate. So from here on out, Jack began working more and more for main clients in California with his dad, leaving Morgan alone for long lengths of time due to work and business trips. They had their own house on the estate, but again, close proximity to the main family house. So Morgan was dealing with the mother-in-law, the family estate, kind of feeling under constant surveillance by her mother-in-law, just not having a great time. And this situation went on for a while, and Jack is not there, so tensions are building up, they're running high. Morgan is fed up with Jack not being there, and he feels under pressure from his father's business and kind of annoyed at Morgan for complaining. It's all just not a great situation. So that went on for a while, and most of the family members are just, a little unhinged, a little crazy, all at, tender hooks with each other.
Okay.
Really not having a great time. So I'm missing skip something here. I'm literally missing a paragraph or something.
Okay.
Oh, 1 second.
Just make it up in your head.
I can't.
That's the myth.
So rude.
JK, I actually have no idea at this point.
What? I'm just trying to think, what have I said? What can I link back in? Because I found where I am now. This situation went on for a while with tension simmering between most of the family members and also with Morgan's family. They became disdained with the Tullys as they changed their opinion with them from listening to their daughter's stories and just hearing what she had to deal with.
Okay.
So now it's 2007 and it's coming up to the 4th of July. The Tully family were well known for their parties and social events, and the 4th of July being the most prominent one. Jack's mother, Deborah, organised a lavish, no-expense party based at Lake Powell, where the family had some cabins and a private pier for some of their boats. Neighbours and well-known members of the Leachy area were invited with the aim to keep up reputations and like relationships and just connections to keep the family in high regard. So internally the family is at breaking point, but externally they're like, let's have this big party, it's going to be great. So the party was a chance for the family to come together and sort out their issues and regroup, but unfortunately this is what the opposite of what happened. So we'll get into what happened at the party. The party began as usual with fireworks displays, drinks, there was barbecues catered for, and the party continued well into the night, with Jack and Morgan being taken out on a boat by Morgan's dad to watch the firework display at the lake under the stars. The party began to wind down around 2 a.m. when it was noted that the boat they were on had not returned. Okay. So many boats went out like, let's watch the final display, and they never came back. So the other boats and occupants had reported they last seen the boat with Morgan, her dad, and Jack on it in the middle of the lake. No issues whatsoever. They could see them. They were all moving around, having a great time. So volunteers of those who were still around started to re-enter the water and go back on their boats in search of the three and the boat.
Were these like small little speedboats, or were they like rowing boats?
No, they'd be like, I suppose the idea of like a smaller speedboat, like, you know, like a fishing boat, or like just a medium-sized boat, I guess.
Okay.
They found Morgan close to shore, struggling to stay afloat, but alive, and her father a mile away from where that party was, like their private pier area, a mile away from there, but also alive. So they searched continued on for Jack, but he was nowhere to be found. A body was found in the lake 2 days later, with DNA confirming it to be that of Jack, aged 27. So earlier reports suggest a tragic 4th of July boat accident, which was fueled by the Sampsons family story of boat fuel catching fire and engulfing the vessel. Okay. So this is what Morgan and her dad were saying.
Yeah.
Because they're the only two alive still. But the narrative quickly changed upon the details of the autopsy emerging. Jack's body was examined, and it was determined there was little to no water in his lungs, suggesting that he was dead when he entered the water. He did have burns, however they were superficial, but the cause of death was noted as blunt force trauma to the head. Another anomaly was the condition the boat was found in. It was found close to where Morgan's dad was found, and it was found burnt out. So,
what does burnt out mean?
Like, it was found like as if there had been a fire on board. Like,
okay.
Kind of like gutted, but
that
by flames.
That.
Yes, but much like Jack's burn, they were mostly on the surface of the boat, pointing to the fire being started above deck rather than the engine itself. So they had previously saying that like the engine caught fire and that spread everywhere. But when they examined the boat, it's as if the fire was on the surface. So something was spread on the surface and the fire caught on that. So many who were there also speculated that on the merit of the fire, as if the vessel had caught fire where it was and where everyone had seen them last, they would have seen it because it was out in the open of the lake.
True.
So people who were there were kind of like, that's odd, you know, no one's seen a fire.
A bit suspicious.
Yeah. So the pressure was mounting on the police from the media and the wealthy Tully family, but at this point they turned their investigation from accidental death to murder investigation, with Morgan and her dad David as the main suspects. There was a very obvious discrepancy between their stories and the evidence that was found. And Morgan also had no burns on her. So she had no burns, her dad had some, and Jack was found with superficial burns. So the boat was examined further, and a lead pipe was found in the water nearby, lending itself to a murder weapon. The case was slowly building up against them, but it was very circumstantial, and there was little concrete DNA or anything like that tying them to the murder or saying it's actually a murder for sure. But then there was a breakthrough. Through thorough investigations and like interrogations, Morgan turned against her father for a more lenient sentence and confessed to the whole thing to the police.
Okay.
So she broke under intense pressure and she cooperated. It turns out the whole thing was in the works for a while, with Morgan and her dad David conspiring to kill Jack for Morgan to be free from the family and then also inherit some of his fortune to his death, due to the fact she was his wife. So it emerged afterwards that after the final set of fireworks were over, David Sampson struck Jack in the head with the lead pipe and killed him. Morgan abandoned the boat and swam ashore while her father dumped Jack's body off the boat after lighting it on fire somewhat. Next, he drove the boat a mile away to the location where it was found, near him, set it alight with fluid that had been there for just reserve fluid for the boat. He too entered the water and swam around for a while and swam to shore, where he was later found. All the circumstantial evidence coupled with Morgan's confession solidified the police's case, and then in 2008 the murder trial of Jack Tully began. It ended with a unanimous decision to convict David Sampson of first-degree murder for life in prison and Morgan Sampson with conspiracy to commit murder, and she got 20 years for her part in the events, with time removed due to her cooperation. And that is the story of the murder at Lake Powell on the 4th of July.
Okay, good story.
Thank you.
I didn't write down a massive amount of notes. My guess is a myth, mainly because you seem to lose your place once or twice as you were telling it.
Yeah.
There wasn't any particular details. I guess this story is a little bit simpler than the previous weeks.
In what way?
Okay, we're just gonna be honest here, guys. We've recorded the past 6 in the one
in the one session.
In the one session. So the other ones just had such intense detail to them. The quotes that the woman said and all the names and all the places. Whereas this was much more the, I guess, kind of details of the drama and stuff.
Okay, yeah, and the details of the other people.
Yeah,
right.
whereas the other ones were almost hard to follow. There was so much information in them. I was like, oh my god, I don't actually know what's happening here.
Okay.
Whereas this is a little bit simpler, not in a bad way, but just in a way that's making me lean towards myth.
Okay, so
that's my final answer.
That's your final answer?
Yeah.
It was a myth.
It was.
But I lost my place because I thought I fully left out a key thing, but I just read it wrong and it was there the whole time. But it's hard because I'm saying too many things. I need to stop saying
I agree.
them.
It's really difficult.
I'm just never gonna write a myth.
I feel like the last session was so good. I don't know. The last session I was feeling incredible. I feel like we were getting so much better, and I just feel like it's gotten worse. Not that you just gotten worse. It's just very good.
Okay, thanks. Well, yeah. So, note to self: work, do better myths. I think for sure, do better.
No, it was a good story. It's incredibly believable. It for sure could have happened.
Okay, so just have
just
blatant confidence in my
It
own
just was
story.
my gut feeling that it could have been a myth.
Yeah. Okay. No, I didn't feel good saying it out loud. I was like, oh, she knows already. She knows.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess till next week.
Mm-hmm. This has been Murder or Myth with your hosts, Louise and Emma.
And on this week's episode, Louise was correct. I did not stump her, and it was a myth, in fact.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Join us next week for another thrilling adventure.
Find us on all streaming platforms.
Slay.
Slay.